back. Welcome to Youth View, the first ever bicommunal production which presents views and opinions of the Cypriot youth, brought to you by the BNCY. I am Dimitris Michail.
I am Ilsu Cagra, and we'll be our hosts for today.
Hello and welcome to today's episode. The main subject of this podcast is the taboos in the Cypriot society. Has our society managed to overcome its past taboos? How do people react to specific social phenomena?
Today's guests are Gul and Mario. Welcome to our show, girls. Could you please start by giving us an introduction of yourselves?
This is Mariolitsa Michailidi. My friends call me Mario. I studied biomedical science in the University of Sheffield, and then I did my master's in molecular medicine. Now I'm back in Cyprus for the past 5 months, and I work at one of the big 4 companies, which has nothing to do with what I studied, but yeah, this is life. I'll be a guest on today's episode about taboos.
Hi, I'm Gul Akçal. I studied in University of Surrey. It was Media, Culture and Society, and I did my master's on sociology. And unfortunately, because of the pandemic, I've been here for 9 months now, which is a bit upsetting. But it's good. I started a new job. I teach at Nejat British College. And because it's kind of related to my field, I teach sociology at least. It's good. And thank you all for having me as a guest.
That's wonderful. We're very glad to have you girls in this episode. So let's start by talking about the first topic, which is a very hot one. It's about the sexual orientation. It's about the LGBT community and how do Cypriot people behave or react when they see someone from the LGBT community. How do you think, Mario, has the Cypriot society evolved in these past decades, let's say, when it comes to LGBT people?
Well, there was certainly some progress on that topic. I'm not gonna lie. We're still not on the point that I'd like my country to be, but I've seen some small steps being taken towards progress, and this is great. Like the fact alone that they've started doing pride parades 7 years ago, I think, it was huge for a small island like Cyprus. Of course, there were big reactions to that announcement. On the first Pride Parade, there was a small group of people that went to anti-protest, basically, and there was police because of that, because people needed protection. But now things are much better. The Pride Parades are like big events. We bring singers from Greece. We have face painting and crafts. It's really nice, but apart from that, we've had some progress on the political aspects as well. Now, gay people can get a certificate that says that they're basically together. They have the same legal rights that married people have. But it's certainly still a taboo in Cyprus. People don't get to witness homosexuals being together in public because they don't do it, basically. They don't feel safe to do it.
What about you, Gul?
I do agree with Maria, definitely. I think there has been progress, especially I think it was last week on Instagram that I saw a photographer take a picture of 2 homosexual couples, and I was so amazed by it that within the art world, photography, people are actually doing something about it. It is still taboo, obviously. People can't really express themselves because everyone, I think, has a way of expressing themselves, whether it's homosexuality, heterosexuality, and unfortunately in Cyprus, it is a taboo subject. I think we still have a long way. But there's Queer Cyprus, which also helps. They do podcasts. And I think especially artists and musicians have contributed a lot for queer people. So I think, there has been contribution to it, but I think we have a long way to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as I am aware, there is two LGBT, let's say, groups in Cyprus. The one is in the Turkish Cypriot community, and the one is in the Greek-speaking Cypriot community. When it comes to the south, we have the Accept Loati or Accept LGBT movement, and in the northern part, it's the Queer Cyprus. You said, Gul?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay, that's very amazing to see that both communities are trying to, let's say, reduce the effect of these taboos. But also, I've noticed that, some people usually say that the number of gay or like lesbian people has increased. Is that the case, or is that the more people come out nowadays?
Well, it's the second one,
Yeah?
definitely.
How easy do you think is for somebody to come out to either their friends or family or like to people they know? Mario?
Well, it depends on many factors, to be honest. It depends on how accepting their families, their friends are. It depends. Like, it depends on the person as well. If they're more outgoing, more confident, it will definitely be easier for them to come out. But if they're insecure and they're very, I don't know, they get affected on how people treat them, then they won't be able to come out. But I see many young people coming out to their friends, especially, not so much to their families, and this is very encouraging. On the other hand, I know some close, I don't know, relatives or friends of mine who are older in age, and there's no chance they will come out to their family, no way. And it's very sad because they've lived their entire life basically hiding their true identity. But this is how it is. Young people, at least, are becoming more open.
Yeah, that's right. There is a huge difference between the older and the younger generation. The trend, I mean, not the trend, but like the behavior of the younger generation is more accepting nowadays. And especially that young people now study abroad has helped the Cypriot community. And now people are more open to discuss or like come out of the closet in general. Gul and Ilsu, would you like to give us some of your, let's say, experiences that you might have with LGBT people within your community? Have they faced any difficulties? Ilsu?
So actually, I was going to ask about the difference between the older and younger generations and how you see that, because I think, remember in the north a couple of years ago, there were these signs and posters near the main roads and in streets where people from LGBT community were advertised in order to give the impression that they're also one of us and nothing different. And I remember getting various perspectives around this, and especially from younger people. I thought it was very supportive, and they believe that it's a very good way of normalizing LGBT individuals and integrating them into society. However, especially from the older generations, I heard this thing, like, how am I going to explain this to my children? Like, it's not necessary. This should be kept, this should be kept in private and so on, I find it funny because when we see heterosexual couples on the TV or something like that, it's all okay and it's safe. But when it's a same-sex couple, suddenly for older generations, it's not appropriate for children. So I'm really interested in how you think about this, how you think about the difference between the older and younger generations. Gul?
With that question, what I've realised, because I spoke to some older generations about this, just in general, what they think about it, and what I've realised, because I also have lots of gay, lesbian friends, and one main reason why they are kind of, I don't know if it's that the fact that they're against it or they just find it taboos, because Cyprus is very small, they believe that if it's their children, for example, they'll be bullied, they'll be an outcast, and that's why they don't want that for their children. That's why they're against it, because they're like, we want our children to be included, we don't want them to get bullied. And obviously if they are gay, they will definitely be bullied at school, outside of school, maybe they can't find jobs anywhere, and that's one of the reasons why the older generation has that difference with the younger generation. I think our generation especially is more inclusive. We accept people. It doesn't matter about their race, their gender, sexuality. We're just like, you know, we include them and we accept people for who they are. But the older generation, I think, especially with words, the words that we find very offensive, they still use it. But I think that's a cultural thing because they don't really see how offensive it is. It's just they're used to using that term. But it's our generation who said, no, you know, this is very, very offensive. But unfortunately, you can't really change the minds of the older generation because when they were our age, for example, they didn't really live this. There weren't any people who were actually gay, or even if they were just strictly an outcast.
That's right. There are many occasions where gay or like lesbian people actually never accepted their identity, and they've actually been within marriages with other people. And sometimes this can actually lead to depression because your sexual orientation cannot be hidden, cannot be covered by a fake marriage. This is very common. I've seen lots of instances where gay people are actually within a straight marriage. And I'm like, how do you allow yourself to be imprisoned with this? Anyway, like I'm trying to think how, let's say, straight people or like people who are not LGBT, what are their main arguments on why not to accept such LGBT rights or like the LGBT people in general? Why are people afraid of this? Mario?
Well, there are many arguments that I hear being used. Most people say that it goes against their religion, that it's a sin, or they say that it's abnormal, it's not natural. That's what they say, that people of the same sex cannot reproduce, so it goes against nature. They use that argument a lot, actually. Yeah, I think these two arguments are the most common ones: religion and not being natural. Well, there are many arguments against that, but people who believe that, they're not open to hear the voice of reason, to hear something different. So yeah, it's very difficult to get these opinions out of their mind.
Yeah, I think it's correct. And also, I think that we're humans and humans tend to stay away from things that are not familiar to them. So like if a person is encountering with an individual from the LGBT community for the first time, I think it's normal that they feel weird, you know, because they don't know and they feel it's not common and it's unsafe, therefore, and so on. But being uneducated about this, I think it is what makes someone afraid, and also being educated about this in a wrong way, as you said, that it's a sin or it's against nature and stuff like that. I think, but in this modern era where individuals should be free to expose their identities and sexual orientations, I think it's a must to learn and improve oneself to respect others' ways of living, because being uneducated about this, I think, is not an excuse anymore.
And the good thing about it is that because of social media, people are getting educated without realizing it. They don't need to actively go and look up the term queer or gay or lesbian or bisexual. They just hear things from everywhere. They get all these ideas from movies, from songs, from the social media, from friends, and slowly but surely they're changing their minds. This is a very slow process, especially if you have some deep-rooted opinions, but it's happening, and this is very positive.
That's right. But although we've managed to reach this kind of improvement this past decade, especially that we are indeed a part of the European Union, which has helped the whole process due to the political reasons behind this, I think that the Cypriot media are not actually giving much attention to this problem in general. And when it comes to attention, it's usually being portrayed within TV shows, and they usually illustrate a specific kind of persona for the LGBT community, and this kind of creates a different view that it's supposed to be for the people to see. And most people now think that the image that is being portrayed by the media is the one and it's standard. Do you think that this can be altered in a way, Gul?
Are you asking in general or specifically Cyprus?
Cyprus.
I think it will be very, very difficult personally because of politics. Because I think media, I mean, all over the world, but focusing on Cyprus, the media is based on politics. I don't believe that there is any newspaper or channel that isn't political, even if they try to be non-political. Unfortunately, politics does play a huge role in controlling the media, so I think that's why they are portrayed a certain way. I mean, the one way of maybe breaking down those stereotypes, I guess, of, you know, standardizing the LGBT community could be just people showing who they are through. That's why I gave an example of art or music or theatre. The people that actually see it in real life, so they can say, oh, wait, you know, there's people who express it differently. So it's not just based on media. We can actually see them. But in order for these people to express who they are, they need a platform. They need recognition. So I think it's politics that needs to create a new platform within media so people can change and actually express freely their sexuality and gender.
Well, on paper though, like most political parties, if not all, actually are pro, let's say, LGBT rights. But when it comes to the action, I think due to the culture is kind of putting a barrier to take these steps because, you know, parties lose votes if they do certain actions. So these are kind of the flaws within the system, so that parties cannot promote such ideas or like new laws for LGBT rights. But I'm kind of hopeful at the moment that this will change in the upcoming years. We'll see much more progression when it comes to this subject. I think that's mostly it. Oh yeah, Mario, you want to add something else?
Yeah, I'd like to add something on the topic of media. I agree with Gul that news are being controlled by politics mostly, but there are other parts of media that are not being controlled by politics. For example, what you said about the platform, this is where celebrities come into play, because celebrities in particular are not actually being controlled by politics. They're being controlled by their labels and stuff, but the big celebrities don't actually care about what politics. They don't need them. And these celebrities are actually very helpful on raising awareness. We see that everywhere. We've seen Sam Smith very recently asking not to be identified as he or she. We've seen many people coming out as non-binary and, gender fluid or gender neutral. And yes, media in Cyprus in particular are not portraying queer people as normal people. They actually create a funny persona. They humiliate them. It's very weird. It's very strange. I don't really understand that. But thankfully, Cypriots don't only watch Cypriot TV. They watch a lot of Netflix. They watch Hollywood movies. So yeah, media are helping on a very big way.
Indeed, but this is not the case when it comes to celebrities from Cyprus, Greece, or Turkey. Like, I haven't actually seen a famous person or a celebrity to actually come out. I mean, we're hearing rumors of people being gay or lesbian, but none of them have actually taken the step to come out. And this could actually help the society to understand that it's not only Western societies that have these, let's say, people. It's also Cyprus itself. Yes, Mario?
I agree with you, but like 1 month ago, Haris Romas, one of the biggest screenplayers and actors of Greece came out as gay.
Okay.
And it was huge. It was huge because he's very famous. He's now in his 60s, maybe. I'm not really sure. And there have always been those rumors that maybe he's gay, maybe he's not. People were talking. And he decided to come out now. And it was a huge step. Like, no one expected him to come out. People expected him to be gay, but not to come out. And it was a very big step. And the good news was that I heard very nice comments about that. People were supportive.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I think what's very related to the LGBT and the community and the straight people and how people perceive that in society, I think another topic that's very, I would say less talked is sex and protection. And I think what we talked about, younger generations and older generations and the difference between them, I think it also applies to sex and protection and the taboos around this topic as well. So what do you think about people and people being more open to discussing sex-related topics? Do you think that it's now more accepted to talk about these, or what do you think, Gul?
Personally, I think no, unfortunately. I mean, it does depend on generation hugely, but with what I've seen, with my friends, for example, regardless of their gender, we can freely, talk about sex, we can talk about gender, we can talk about self-expression, but it's very gendered, to be honest. I mean, it depends. If you're a woman, you're still not able to talk about sex or protection or just sex in general. You can't. You will just be labelled, hugely labelled. But if you're a male, a man, you can freely talk about it because that's what is expected of you. That's one of the concepts of masculinity, I think, in our culture specifically. If you're a man, of course you're going to talk about sex, how many women you've been with. It's more, how can I say it? It's a way of, I guess, satisfying their ego in a way. It's just showing that they are a man. They've slept with so many women. They tell their names. They talk about their body parts and turn women into objects. Mm-hmm. But if women sleep more than, let's say, 5 men, oh my God, it is a huge show. Everyone knows about it. That woman is labelled hugely. And to be honest, I don't know how we're going to break this. I mean, I've tried talking about this with other people who study gender studies as well. But in Cyprus, it's hugely based on culture. So I think, no, it's very difficult to break this taboo subject.
Yeah, I think especially within families, like boys are expected and also encouraged by other men, especially by their fathers, for these kinds of things, like with praises or even jokes. But when it's girls, like it's suddenly very inappropriate or something that needs to be experienced privately. But also I think there is this growing empowerment of girls and women, like around sex and how they should be freely expressing their experiences. So I would again say this is changing, but what do you think, Mario?
It's definitely changing. Yes, I agree with you. It's still very based on gender, but young girls are trying to break that stereotype down. Me personally, I feel that I'm very free to talk about sex. I don't care talking about numbers. I don't care talking about sex positions. I don't care about anything. But that's basically with my friends. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about these things with anyone. But yes, I don't feel that stereotype. And I think it depends on the person as well. It's the same thing as what I said previously about coming out. It depends on your character hugely. But yes, definitely in Cyprus there is this stereotype. Girls are supposed to act like ladies. Men are supposed to be macho and they're being celebrated for how many girls they've been with, what they've done in bed. But yeah, this is changing. This is changing as well. So yeah.
I definitely agree with both of you. I think that's why I said personally, I mean, with my friends, like I said, we can speak freely because it's more of a private setting. But yeah, I can see the new generation, people who are, let's say, 5-6 years younger than us, who are slowly coming up to be, mature adults. they are starting to slowly break this stereotype and this taboo subject of, you know, women not being able to talk about their sex lives or maybe even positions or how many people they've been with. And I think it is a positive change, definitely. I mean, that's what I try to do as well, apart from my friend group, just, you know, show people that it's okay if you're, you know, female to talk about your sex life, same as a male. But that's why I specifically said I think it's something cultural. I don't think there's a lot of women who feel that empowerment yet, based on family, based on, you know, their environment as well. And I think somehow maybe this has to do with media and politics as well in Cyprus, that they need to create this change and create a platform that women can talk about their sexual health.
Yeah, I think like besides politics and media, as I said before, for the LGBT community, I think if people are uneducated about an issue, it seems unfamiliar and wrong. So I think what needs to be done is also about education as well, because as far as I know, in the north, sex education is still not covered by curriculum in Turkish Cypriot schools. And I think we should normalize it, and importantly, we should teach ways of protection from teenage pregnancies and sexually transmitted diseases to safeguard, both girls and both boys, of course. And also, I think whenever an issue is taught at schools, it helps to normalize it in families as well, because it's something that's like not even a big deal. So it could give way to discussions about these topics in families, right? What do you think, Mario?
I agree with you, and unfortunately, sex is not being talked about in Greek Cypriot schools either. We actually have some lessons in high school, I think, when kids are around the age of 13, 14. Mimi, can you back me up on that? I'm not sure.
Yeah, but it's not like actual lessons. It's just like workshops for like maybe a maximum of 4 hours. It's nothing big. It's nothing big of a deal, actually.
So someone comes at school that day and they talk to you and that's it?
Yeah, it's mostly about the basics, though I'm not sure how this has been changed in the past years. But as far as I know, like when I was in the public school, there wasn't much covered back then.
Mm-hmm.
So
and I attended a private school, and the only time we talked about sex was in biology, and it was through reproduction. So we didn't talk about sexual health, we didn't talk about menstruation, apart from the biological aspect of it. We certainly didn't talk about sexually transmitted diseases, and this is a very big topic because many people, even younger people, have no idea how these diseases are getting transmitted. They don't know how to protect themselves against them. They don't know how to treat them, how to recognize them. And it's very important because if you look at the statistics, if you look at the numbers, it's very common. It's unbelievably common how many people get STIs. It's not something that should be a taboo. I really don't understand how this is a topic that is taboo. It should be talked about, especially in schools, in biology classes. Your doctors should educate you about these things. And unfortunately, this is not happening yet.
I completely agree with you. I think one of the reasons it's not being taught at schools is definitely religion. Even though we're, perceived as being secular, I don't think the education system is secular, and that's why they're not talking about sex education in general. One thing I was really surprised about when I was studying at Surrey was that the NHS put up posters of is it the STI kits or HIV kits? They were for free. You can literally log on, they'll send it to you by mail, you can just do a test by yourself, send it back, they'll call you back. It was free, and I was like, this is amazing. Why isn't every country doing this? Not just at unis, but even at schools. Because this is how the younger generation will be educated. The fact that they can see posters that, it's for free, get tested, learn about what's going on, learn about doing sex and protecting yourself as well. But if something happens, the healthcare is there for you actually, because it's free, because it's easy accessible. And I was very intrigued, to be honest, and I think it's something that Cyprus needs as well.
That's right. From my experience, I've noticed that the STI positive people or HIV, let's say positive people, are kind of being stigmatized by society. They think that by just sitting in a table, you might get HIV as well, which is so funny because it's not the case. As Mario said before, people are not being informed on how these diseases or infections are being transmitted. They don't know the basics of it. And it's kind of sad to see that in 2020, the Cyprus society is not that developed when it comes to this issue. Also, when it comes to the women's period topic, there are a lot of instances where women, where I was sitting on the same table, were not comfortable to discuss that. For example, on that specific day, they might be having a period, or like we were at the sea or the beach, and they were kind of not talking about this. They were like, I'm not feeling well, I don't want to swim. Like, it's some occasions that you're like, what's the problem? Just tell me why you can't do it. Like, why are you afraid to say that you're, for example, are in your period? Why do women feel this kind of restriction to talk about this, even in front of people they know? Mario?
This has to do with the reactions we get when we talk about these things. Most of the times it's okay, it's perfectly fine to talk about this. It depends on the person you have sitting in front of you. So, like, you have to know who you're talking to. If you know that person will not have a reaction and he'll be fine with it, you're just gonna go ahead and say it. There is nothing holding you back. But I have friends that are my age that don't feel comfortable listening about periods and about period cramps and about blood. They don't like it. You see how uncomfortable they get when you start talking about these things. So you get uncomfortable, and you know next time not to talk about these in front of them. So yeah, it depends on your friends, on the group that you have with you. You can't feel comfortable every single day to talk about your period.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's very hard.
Also, when it comes to women's period, I've noted that a few countries have now given free, what's the word?
Sanitary
Products.
Yeah. Yes, for women, so that they don't have to pay, because as my female friends said, that it's actually pretty expensive to buy them yourselves. Do you think that Cyprus could potentially implement this step, Gul?
Hopefully, yes. I really do hope so, because it is very expensive, and I don't understand how it's seen as a commodity when it's actually not a commodity, because we don't control. It's not like we press a button, we're like, yay, it's our period. I mean, we don't control our period as women, so it should be free, because it's not a product to be sold, it's something necessary. And if I can answer the question you asked Mario as well, I mean, I tried to break the taboo, and I've started when I was in high school, because I remember in middle school, when we were in class, let's say our period came, we always used to whisper to our friend, do you have a pad? And we used to like put it somewhere where no one can see, no one can understand we're on our period. It was
like drug
literally
dealing.
like we're doing something illegal. But since high school, even now, my friends just come and whisper like, do you have a pad? I just literally take it out of my bag and I give it to them by hand, and they just look at me shocked. I don't care who's there, I don't care if I'm in a public place. I just try to show that we are human. It's okay that we have a period. And I keep on trying to breaking that, taboo subject of pads or tampons. It's normal. Even when I go to the shop to buy pads or tampons or whatever, sanitary product, I see, men kind of looking weirdly sometimes, or women, or just the fact that I'm holding it, I don't put it in something private, a little bag or something. And I generally dislike the fact that when we buy sanitary products, we have to put it in like plastic bags or somewhere where it's unseen when we leave. I definitely don't do that. I just hold it because I'm against plastic anyway. But if I don't have anything next to me, I literally just hold it. I don't care, because it's something normal, and it should be normal. for women to buy sanitary products or just talk about the fact that they have period cramps.
It's the same with condoms, I think, and the one day after pill.
Morning
Like
after
it's
pill,
yeah, it's like many people feel very awkward when they go to kiosks or like supermarkets to buy such stuff, and like it's just so weird. Like it's just like a product that you like almost everyone uses nowadays. But I think it will kind of be okay, like in the future. So, all right, let's move on to the next topic, which is about religion and how our people of different religion are being perceived by the people of each community. Mario, would you like to start by sharing us your views when it comes to the Greek-speaking Cypriots and their reaction when they meet or like when they interact with someone that have a different religion?
I think that Greek Cypriots live in a bubble when it comes to religion. They think that everyone is an Orthodox Christian. And I mean that, I do mean that. They are not aware of how many other religions there are. They don't know the numbers. They think that that's the only religion that exists. It's unbelievable, especially in Cyprus. When you see someone who speaks Greek, who lives in Cyprus, it automatically means that they're Christians, that they're Orthodox. Like, this is a must. They don't even ask, they don't even doubt it. They just know you live in Cyprus, you're Greek Cypriot, that means this is your religion. The end. And I don't get that, because actually our constitution, they say that we're a secular country, that we don't have a formal religion, an official religion. This is what it says. But unofficially, the official religion is that. It exists, and you can see it everywhere. You can see it in schools, you can see it on our flag, you can see it everywhere. And yeah, Greek Cypriots certainly don't accept other religions. They can accept them when they get to know them, and when they come from a different country, they're like, okay, they came from that country, so it's normal that they have a different religion. But when it comes to Greek Cypriots having a different religion or not believing at all, this is very unnatural for them. They can't understand it, they can't wrap their heads around it. So, like, if I didn't believe in God, for example, and I came out and say that, my family wouldn't be okay with that. And other people wouldn't be okay with that, because I grew up in Cyprus, I'm a Greek Cypriot. Why wouldn't I believe in God? This is our religion. It's a hugely taboo topic that people don't like to talk about. It's just a given that everyone is a Christian Orthodox. That's it.
I think it's very weird to see that in the south part of Cyprus, this is really a taboo. But in the north, I would say, as Gul suggested like earlier, that we are quite secular, and even though we have like mosques and places of worship, I think it's mostly Turkish people from Turkey who go to such religious places. But I mean, we have our traditions such as like lighting scents and celebrating religious days. But I think that it isn't quite related to being religious or being Muslim, because it has become something that's related to being Turkish Cypriot, and it's like a part of a culture. And I think many things we do, I don't think we're aware that they're religious practices. I mean, I can give examples from my primary or middle school, but in schools, religion is not even taught as serious as other classes. In primary school, we used to have like religion in our curriculum and timetables, but we used to just skip it and like do extracurricular activities instead. Like we used to learn maybe 1 or 2 prayers just for the 25-minute exam, but that was just it. So it's really weird to see that in one part of the country, it's really is a taboo of not being Christian, and in the north, even though it has like implications on other aspects of society, like when we look at it like solely, it's not even a taboo. Like you can clearly say that I feel like I don't belong to your religion, and no one would be oh, that's weird. Even though some like older generations are still quite obsessed about it, I don't think it's the same for the north part.
So how would you say it affects your life? How does religion affect your life?
I think it's definitely cultural, nothing specifically, society based. I mean, it is society based in the sense that, for example, when it's, let's say, Eid, we still go to, our grandparents' homes and, we kiss their hand, etc. But that's about it. We don't have the whole festival of, let's say, I don't know, I would say murdering a lamb because I think it's murder, for example. No offense, I do respect the religion. I respect all religions, but I mean, we don't kill or we don't celebrate it in a very traditional way. It's just mostly cultural out of respect, or even funerals. The way we bury someone and the prayers going on. It's just the environment. This is a cultural thing we just have to do. And people don't... I mean, there's a lot of people who don't know prayers. I personally don't know any prayer. And, for example, my grandparents, who were strictly Muslim, even now they're kind of secular. They'd never imposed it on us. We don't have to be... I mean, with my friends, I have religious friends as well. But I think in, Turkish-speaking Cypriots, I think it's mostly spirituality rather than specifically, obeying God's rules. It's mostly them saying, it's something to do with me and my belief with God, or an energy or something. So I do agree with Ilsu when it's mostly Turkish people who go to mosques. And I think there is some disrespect to other cultures in the sense that there are churches, for example, but people don't really pay respect. I see a lot of Turkish Cypriots going and drinking in front of them, for example, or just, vandalizing it. So I think it is, like I said, mostly the Turkish community who's religious.
Mm-hmm. I think it's, what you said about the spirituality aspect of religion in your community, I think it's kind of being portrayed nowadays in the younger generation, let's say from the age of 18 until mid-20s. Our generation is of course baptized, most of them, as Orthodox Christians, but it's only a minority that actually is kind of very religious. Most of the people I know, at least in my circle, are not that religious, or like do not obey the rules of their religion. Like if it was to obey every single line of the Bible, let's say, all the people will be sinners. But now, like nowadays, many people don't even usually go to the church. It's just like those 2 times per year during Easter or Christmas, and that's it. That's only when religious comes to take effect on their everyday lives. Isn't that, Mario?
Yeah, I agree with you. And most people I know of our age are not really religious. That's true. But even the people that don't go to church very often, that they only go once or twice per year, even them, if you ask them, they will say that they believe in God. They will say that, of course, we're Christian Orthodox. It's not many people that are going to say that they do not believe in God or that they're atheists. These people are very few, and maybe in our circle, we have more people that don't believe in God. And I agree with you. We know we have many friends that actually are not religious, but this is not the majority in Cypriot youth. I think most of them do not care about religion, but they identify as Christian Orthodox still.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is solely based on tradition as well. This is how they grew up, and they can't shake that off them,
Mm-hmm. How was because like all of us have studied or are indeed studying now in the UK. How was your interaction with different cultures and religions? Were Cypriots from both community okay with the interaction with other cultures or religions? How did you see our people behaving with them, Gul?
Personally, with different cultures, I never had a problem. Like I said, I respect all religions. I mean, I had an Indian friend as well, and she did practice her religion. and I just found it very intriguing. So I just wanted her to like teach me about her religion, what she believes in, the cultural foods, traditional foods that she has. And I taught her, it was like a two-way thing of, even though I'm not religious, I would, I guess, identify as an atheist maybe. I did talk about, the Islamic culture that I'm in, how we celebrate it, what actually is the, right way of doing things. But I've never had that negative interaction with any other culture. It was mostly based on respect. I mean, there was no one judging me just because I don't believe in God, or me judging people who were religious. There was one time, for example, when we were talking about religion, where a girl who was, very, very religious got really offended that we weren't religious, because she found that we were kind of mocking her religion. Well, we were just, debating about it. But I think that's kind of personal. If you are very religious and you see people debating about it, you can get really offended thinking that they're mocking you, but they're just discussing religion in general. But other than that, I've never personally had a negative experience.
That's a very interesting topic, like freedom of expression and being able to criticize or like express your views towards a specific religion, especially for today's situation, like worldwide situation, where we have people drawing sketches, illustrating God or whatever prophets in a funny or illustrative way. Then you have like the people who support that religion get offended, like saying bad stuff about them, even like murdering people for such actions. And it's like this thin line where society is still trying to figure out on like what to say, or like what should I not say when it comes to religion, whether like freedom of expression is basically free for anyone, and it has no limits even for arts. We also have this case in Cyprus as well with the Cypriot painter, where he was a teacher in a public school, and he was drawing really like different, let's say, drawings that some of them had religious figures or even other, let's say, figures as well for the Cyprus issue. And there was a huge movement by the church and another group of people that tried to take him down, basically. And it's still an ongoing investigation on this. And so it's this thin line that we still haven't figured it out, or haven't actually agreed on it. I hope, though, that freedom of expression will not be limited, will not be encircled in a specific space. And I hope that people are indeed comfortable and have the rights to discuss about these matters. Gul?
I just want to add one thing. I completely agree with your comment of freedom of expression, but I think it's important to point out that there's a very thin line between something that is included within freedom of speech and something that is very, something that provocates people into going against or murdering or creating crime or being very offended. Because yes, people obviously can talk about or illustrate however they want, but I think it is a very thin line, and people need to be cautious of that thin line that, okay, I am, let's say, making a joke about a certain religion, but it's important how people word it and how people frame it, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly.
Yeah. So I would like to move to our last topic for this episode, which is economical background. So I think economical background is another taboo in Cyprus, and I believe that some individuals are still prejudiced against people who do not have the same financial opportunities as them, or who seem like they don't have the same opportunities as them. Do you think that in Cyprus people are owning cars or owning houses that they're not actually able to afford, just to give the impression that they're one of the people, that we talk? Mario.
Yeah, people are taking out huge loans from the bank just to buy or build a big house, or buy one of the expensive cars, or have clothes that are branded. And yeah, the only reason I can think of for people doing that is just to fit in, to show off that, look, I have an expensive car, I have a big house, which means that I'm well off. It means that I'm one of the rich guys. And yeah, I see that everywhere. It's been like this since I was a little kid, and people are still doing this, even post-crisis. Even now that our economy is not very good, people are still taking out loans that can never repay. And I can't really blame these people. It's not really their fault. This is how they grew up. They keep hearing how important it is to get an education, to get a higher level degree, to get masters, to get a very good job that pays you well. They grow up listening to these things. So they believe that the better the education I get, the more money I will get, and the more accepted and respected I will be in society. So when they cannot do that, not because they weren't good students or they didn't get a higher degree, maybe they couldn't get a very good job. They were unlucky. The thing they studied is not on the market right now in Cyprus. Because of these things, some people cannot really afford to have the lifestyle that they've always thought they should have. And that is when they have the need to show off. And that is when they need to get a loan to buy these things. It's not their fault, but it's certainly a taboo. People are not comfortable talking about their financial situation. If they don't have enough money and they can't afford to pay the rent or buy a house, they don't feel comfortable talking about this.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's just, as you said, it's not their fault, but they're kind of reinforcing this cycle. And like more people are feeling like they have to do it as well. And I think when people who have enough money to invest in their like careers and like in their family lives and as well, and they invest in their like less, I would say, cheaper cars or cheaper houses, we kind of have this idea that probably they don't have money, or that's why we don't consider the option that maybe it's not their priority. So that's why that they're doing that. So we feel, we have to do that as well. So yeah, Gul, I think you were...
Yes. Personally, I blame the government for this, because I think the reason why people feel like they have to buy these cars and these houses and to get these loans for them is because when we look at Cyprus in general, the working class are the migrants, and people don't want to be seen like them. There's a huge division between, the lower classes and middle and upper classes, because as a Turkish Cypriot, for example, you cannot be seen as a lower class, because if you are, you're one of them. And that's why people, I think, feel the pressure that they need to get a loan to buy that car, or else they'll be seen as one of those migrants. And every time, for example, in the walled city, I drive by, I see these migrants, working class, and I see how, people don't even take care of them. People don't look at them. They live in terrible houses. They don't have proper shoes to wear, these kids. And it's very sad that the government is not doing anything about this, even proper housing, or just clothes. They just don't fit these migrants into society. They just exclude them. You can just stay at, the worst place ever, while, the Turkish Cypriots can be rich and have the glorious jobs. And I think that's why people just feel the pressure of, I need to earn more money. I need to wear these designer clothes. I need to have these huge cars, and I need to live in a good house just so I have this respect. If not, I'm going to be seen as a working class, as one of those migrants who probably work at a construction site, for example. And I think this is definitely the government's fault.
That's also the case in the Greek-speaking Cypriot community. Like we've been, like in the past, let's say 2 or 3 decades, almost everyone, or like the majority at least of new graduates from high schools have a must to study a specific course. And this is kind of restricting the market in a way, which like we have many now, let's say accountants or like lawyers or like doctors, and our island is not capable to accommodate such such workers anymore. But also it's very interesting to see that the government or like the society is not accepting the fact that not everyone should study something. Not and I mean like not everyone has a capability to study something, like afford it at least. So this is a big issue because we can't accept individuals who haven't studied anything. Like once you meet someone and they're like doing something like else, or like they haven't studied, almost instantly you like the other person is seeing them as like uneducated. Oh my god, you haven't finished uni, or like wow. These are some instances that have to be removed from our everyday life, and we need to accept everyone as they are. And also some people usually say that we have lots of people coming from abroad and they take over our jobs, but this is not true, because Cypriot people prefer to work in an office most of the time. They prefer to work something else apart from workers, or like delivery man, or like as servitoros, Mario, as a waiter.
Waiters,
And
cleaners.
like these people who come for abroad are still necessary for the society, restaurants or cafes to work. So I don't see their point like to just remove everyone from the island and just be Cypriots, because eventually our country will be dysfunctional. Yes, Gul?
I just wanted to add, I think you made a very good point about, studying abroad. And I think one major issue is the, stereotype or label that people who study in Cyprus are stupid. And people forget that, especially in this day and age, with all the currencies, going up all the time, that people cannot afford, parents can't afford their children to be studied abroad, so they study in Cyprus. And people who don't study abroad are seen as stupid and they can't find jobs. And then they get into this depression, or they feel insecure that they are not, middle or upper class, that they don't belong in the Cypriot community. And they're, again, one of the migrants. And I think this is a huge problem that we need to literally eradicate from society, that yes, people can study abroad. There's people who are unfortunate that cannot study abroad because they don't have the financial system, and this is not a bad thing.
This is partially true for the Greek Cypriots. It's certainly more reputable to say that you've studied abroad, but people who study in Cyprus are very well off as well. They don't have any difficulty finding a job. They have the same, they're on the same level as people who studied abroad. And this is mainly because of the fact that the University of Cyprus, or the Technological University, or University of Nicosia and stuff, they've begun to invest a lot in education, and they've become very respected universities now. And because there's only a few good universities in Greek Cypriot part, the competition is much higher to get in. So the standards are being raised all the time. So this is not very, that doesn't really exist for us. But I can understand your point. And also, we don't have the problem with the migrants, because it's very recent that migrants have started coming to Cyprus, and the problem with showing off has been present for more than 60, 70 years maybe. So this is solely due to our cultural standards and the stereotypes and what's expected of you. It has nothing to do with migration and being looked at as the lower class. I think it's just an insecurity factor, and that's it. For us.
It will be very interesting to see now that the UK is exiting the European Union, and it's increasing their fees which countries will Cypriots select for their future studies. I know that many European countries do have lowered fees for their tuition, and hopefully many Cypriot families will invest in their children to learn an extra European language so that they can actually study abroad if they need to. We have many countries like Italy, Denmark, Germany that do have very good institutions to study abroad.
I think that was the end of our episode for today. And I would like to thank you guys for joining us today with Dimitri. And
we thank you.
Yeah, and we were actually thinking,
us,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was a wonderful conversation. I really hope that we are able to do an extra episode to talk about further about this topic. It's a very hot and crucial topic for our younger generation because we are on the transition period, and hopefully one day we'll be able to just talk about history when it comes to these topics. And yeah, thank you again for the show. Thank you guys for being here for us. It was a wonderful conversation.
Thank you for having us. And can I just say it was a great opportunity to get to know what's happening in your side, guys, because I had no idea about the religious differences, for example. And it's been very educational, and I hope that our listeners have learned things about Cyprus today. And that was amazing. I hope we have this opportunity again to talk about more things.
I completely agree. I thank all of you for inviting us. Personally, it was an amazing experience, and I definitely hope that our listeners will even ask questions or want to actually maybe, even open a book and just, research some things, or just go on Google and, educate themselves if they are confused, with their gender or sexuality or within religion. And hopefully this will gain more respect with the two sides. So I thank you guys for creating this platform.
That's right. We have all the knowledge in the world in our pockets nowadays, so make sure to take advantage of that. Thank you, girls. Thank you very much. I guess I'll see you later.
Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
bye guys.
Well, guys, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at bicomial_network_CYP, or give a like to our Facebook page, which is called Bicomial Network of Cypriot Youth. You can actually DM us or raise any questions that you might have, or basically get any more information regarding the network itself. Thank you very much.